Hey everyone, today I just wanted to talk about strength training and strength and power training and weight training in general for athletes. And by athletes, I don't just mean 100-meter runners or hurdlers or whatever, but anyone who's involved in a sport and they're training for their sport. Because I see a lot of big misconceptions when guys go to the gym, they want to get stronger or they want to get faster for their sport. So I just wanted to give like a basic outline of where I would start and how to think about training for a sport rather than training for bodybuilding or muscle growth or to look good. Not that the two don't cross over, but there are some distinctions between the two. Alright, so my number one tip would be train movements, not muscles. I even hear a lot of sports people or athletes say, I'm going to go to the gym today and I'm going to train chest, or I'm going to go and train back. That's not the right way to think about it. Your objective is not to contract a muscle like a bodybuilder's objective is. Your objective is to become stronger or more powerful or whatever in movements that pertain to the ones in your sport. So say for example you were to, do a squat. Yeah, that's a really that's a free weight exercise. It involves a lot of muscles. It's the type of exercise that you want to do for, being a rugby player down to a golfer, down to a football player, judo, taekwondo, whatever. Okay, so the way you design your routine should be based around those main movements. So for example, you could do like a push-pull lower body split. So you focus on all the pushing movements one day, like bench presses, military presses, dips, push presses, stuff like that. And then you could focus on things like bent over barbell rows, deadlifts, you know, Nordic lowers, glute ham raises, stuff like that on the other day. And then you'd focus on your squats, maybe your stiff leg deadlifts, lunges, other types of those exercises. Or you could do a squat, deadlift, bench day like a powerlifter would, with some assistance exercises. Okay, so that's a little bit about program design. Your objective as a sports person or someone who's trying to get stronger or more powerful is not to contract a muscle. It's to get a weight from point A to point B in the most efficient and safe way possible. So always remember that you're trying to train your nervous system. You're not trying to pump up a muscle, and you're not trying to break muscle fibers down like a bodybuilder would. My second tip would be train functionally. And by that I mean you want to pick movements and exercises which are functional to your sport or what you're trying to achieve. Now, for example, if you're a boxer, okay, and you want to work on your right hook or whatever, or your right cross. Most lads who go in the gym who want to, improve their punching power for whatever reason, they would go for either, a press, or if they were trying to improve the hook, they'd go for, a fly, because, your chest does that movement, right? Okay, no, that's false, First of all, you don't want to pick isolation exercises. I can pretty much unequivocally say that if you're a sports person and you want to get better at sport, you would hardly ever have to do an isolation exercise, or never have to do one ever in your life. Pick something like like a cable punch, yeah, rather than a fly. A fly is like the least functional exercise that you want to do. The same goes with things like bench presses. You've got to relate an exercise to how it pertains to your sport. Would you ever be lay on your back when you're playing any type of sport? No, you'd be stood up. So you want to mimic the movements that you're doing in your sport, because you'd never really do things with two arms either. You want to pick a lot of unilateral exercises. They are much more functional than bilateral exercises. So something like an overhead one arm press is better than a double barbell press. Okay, so that's one thing. Compound exercises are much more functional than isolation exercises. The other side to that coin is you will build strength better when you're stable. So in that way, a bench press or a seated military press would be better than something stood up, because all your other joints are stabilized and you don't have to rely on things like your core to stabilize you. You can literally just focus on pressing the weight, and that is how you will grow stronger. But at the same time, you've got to do functional exercises to get better at your sport. So, for example, I mean, the best way to strengthen this movement, the best way to do that would be a chin. But if you're a judo player and you're in your sport, you're used to grabbing a gi, you may as well drape a gi over the chin bar and do a chin with that. That's more functional to your sport. So in your program, there would be a place for doing regular chins, and there'd be a place for doing chins with a gi. You could periodize that. Which brings me on to my next point, which is periodize. Pretty much, I would say 80–90% of the people who go to the gym go and they train pretty much the same style or the same workouts year in, year out, month in, month out. And as an athlete, especially, that's really not the way to go. What you want to do is you want to go for 4 or 6 week phases. I would say that they're optimal. They're called microcycles. And each of those should consist of phases, I would say mainly strength and power, but also little phases of hypertrophy too, because a muscle is only going to be as strong as it is big to a certain extent. You need to increase the size of those muscle fibers as well as make them stronger. Strength is going to obviously make you a lot stronger and improve in your sport, but also if you train slow, you're going to be slow. You know, if you move a weight slowly, you're going to create a lot of force, but not much velocity. And force and velocity are kind of inversely proportionate. Okay, so the quicker you can move a weight, the lighter it's going to be. The less force you're going to generate, but you're going to generate a lot of velocity. So that you have to train at both ends of those spectrums. So it's ideal to I would say alternate strength and power mainly in your cycles. So that means a strength phase of 4 to 6 weeks, training with a higher percentage of your 1RM. I think you should always attempt to move a weight fast, because even just trying to move a weight fast, you're going to develop some power. And then after your strength phase, you want to drop down to maybe some lighter weights and move them quicker, and that's going to develop power, both attributes you need for pretty much any sport. So, okay guys, that was it. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you found some useful tips from it. I've been fairly vague, but in terms of starting out, you know, I see quite a lot of guys being misinformed about what weight training is in relation to sport, and in terms of sport and bodybuilding, they are completely different. For example, I would say that in bodybuilding, isolation exercises are extremely useful. For example, let's take a bicep curl. You know, if you want bigger biceps, as a bodybuilder, the main thing you would do with bicep curls, because you want to direct as close to 100% of the effort into that one muscle as you can. Whereas in a sport, that is never the case. You never use your biceps in isolation. You may be in a ruck or a maul in rugby, and you may reach across and pull, you know, but you're not using your biceps in isolation. You're using your lats, you're using your core, you're using your glutes, everything. Okay, so that's where the two differ. Again, hope you found it useful. Watch out for more videos. And also, if you're on Facebook, check out AC Fitness and Nutrition, which is my Facebook page. Or you can also follow me at Big Alex Clarke on Twitter. Thanks, guys.